There is a place in East London where time does not move in a straight line. It folds, it echoes, it lingers in the wind and water. If you stand quietly at Parklands, you might think it is just another peaceful green space, a place for a morning walk, a quiet afternoon, or a moment away from the noise of the city. But beneath your feet, hidden in layers of earth and memory, lies a story that stretches back thousands of years. Long before London became the vast city we know today, this land was shaped by water, a narrow stream, known today as the Once Stream, slowly carved its path through the marshy ground, eventually joining the River Beam. This water was not just a feature of the land, it was the reason life began here. The wetlands formed naturally, attracting birds, animals, and eventually people. Even now, the ponds you see shimmering in the sunlight are part of that ancient story, reflecting a sky that has watched centuries pass by. If you could travel back in time nearly 2,000 years, you would not find silence here. You would hear the sounds of a Roman settlement. Around 43 AD, when the Romans arrived in Britain, they didn't just pass through this area, they stayed. They built, they worked, and they lived their lives on this very ground. Archaeologists later uncovered traces of their presence, pottery kilns, burial grounds, and fragments of everyday life. It is a strange thought that where birds now glide peacefully across the water, Roman families once gathered, worked, and buried their loved ones. As the Roman Empire faded, new people came. The Saxons arrived, bringing with them new customs and new names. The nearby area became known as Degenham, a name believed to mean the home of Decker. It was a small settlement at first, surrounded by open land and simple farms. Life was quiet, slow, and deeply connected to the land. Generations lived and died here, leaving behind faint traces, a ditch, a shard of pottery, a patch of disturbed earth, each one a small clue to a forgotten life. For centuries, not much changed. Even into the 1600s, Degenham remained a small rural village with only a handful of houses. The land that is now Parklands was open, quiet, and largely untouched. But change was coming, and it would come quickly. The 20th century transformed everything. Industry arrived, and with it came people, thousands of them. Nearby, massive factories rose from the ground, including the famous Ford plant, turning the area into one of the industrial hearts of London. The peaceful countryside began to disappear, replaced by roads, buildings, and the constant rhythm of machines. And yet, this particular stretch of land seemed to fall between worlds. It was not fully developed, but it was no longer truly wild either. Over time, it became neglected. Paths faded, vegetation grew unchecked, and the area slowly turned into a place people avoided. There was even a time when a smallpox isolation hospital stood nearby, a reminder of fear and disease in an earlier age. For years, Parklands was not a place of beauty, but a place forgotten. Then, as if history had one more story to tell, the land revealed another layer, one shaped by war. During the years of World War II, this area became strategically important, close to the River Thames and vital industrial sites. It was part of London's defensive network. Bunkers and gun positions were built to protect against air raids. Somewhere within or around these fields, soldiers once stood watch, scanning the skies for enemy aircraft. The peaceful silence you hear today replaces a time when sirens wailed and the sky itself felt dangerous. Though many of those structures have disappeared or been hidden by nature, The memory of them remains, quietly embedded in the land. What makes this place even more remarkable is something you cannot always see. Beneath the grass and soil lies a system designed to protect modern London. Beam Parklands sits on a floodplain, carefully designed to absorb excess water during heavy rains. When storms come, this land becomes a guardian, holding back water that might otherwise flood homes, schools and streets nearby. It is not just a park, it is a silent protector. Then came a turning point. In 2011, after years of neglect, this land was transformed. What had once been abandoned was reborn as a country park. Paths were created, wetlands restored, and wildlife encouraged to return. Slowly, life came back. Birds nested in the reeds, fish moved through the water, and people began to rediscover the area. It became a place where nature and history exist side by side, where a simple walk can take you across centuries without you even realizing it. Today, one of the most beautiful features of Beam Parklands is its pond. On the surface, it is calm and peaceful. Swans glide effortlessly across the water, their reflections shimmering like a painting. The reeds sway gently in the breeze, and the sounds of birds fill the air. It feels untouched, almost timeless, but that beauty is layered. Beneath the water lies the story of the stream that shaped this land, the people who lived here and the transformations that followed. And yet, even in recent times, this place has faced challenges. Just months ago, a fire swept across parts of the park. The dry grass caught quickly, and flames spread across the landscape. Firefighters rushed in, battling the blaze as smoke rose into the sky. For a moment, it felt as though history was repeating itself. Another chapter of destruction, in a place that has seen so much change. But like everything else in Beam Parklands, the land endured. It always does. That is the true story of this place. It is not just a park, it is a timeline, a living memory. A place where Romans once walked, where Saxons built their homes, where soldiers prepared for war, and where nature has reclaimed its space again and again. There is something unusual about the silence at Beam Parklands. It is not empty silence, it feels layered. Almost as if the land is holding its breath, carrying stories it has never fully told. If you walk slowly enough, if you really pay attention, you begin to realize that this is not just a park. It is a place where nature, history, and human life have been crossing paths for thousands of years. The story begins with water, because without water this place would not exist. The Want Stream, a modest and often overlooked waterway, has been shaping this land for centuries. It winds quietly through the park, eventually feeding into the River Beam. But its importance goes far beyond what you can see. Over time, it created wetlands, soft, absorbent ground that could hold water, support wildlife, and sustain early communities. Even today, the carefully designed ponds and marsh areas in the park are built around this natural system. They are not just decorative. They are engineered landscapes that mimic and restore ancient ecological patterns. What many people don't realize is that Beam Parklands is part of a much larger environmental system. It sits within the Thames floodplain, meaning it plays a crucial role in protecting nearby urban areas from flooding. During heavy rain, water is diverted into these wetlands, where it spreads out and is slowly absorbed. This reduces pressure on drainage systems and lowers the risk of flooding in surrounding neighborhoods. In a way, this peaceful park quietly performs one of the most important jobs in the city. It protects lives and homes without anyone noticing. But long before modern flood management systems, people were already drawn to this land. Archaeological discoveries have shown that this area was inhabited during the Roman period, starting around the 1st century AD. Evidence of pottery production suggests that this was not just a temporary settlement, but a place of industry and daily life. Kilns were built, clay was shaped, and goods were produced, possibly traded with nearby settlements. Burial sites discovered in the area indicate that families lived here long enough to establish deep roots, choosing to bury their dead close to home. After the Romans left Britain, the land did not fall silent. Saxon settlers moved in, gradually shaping the identity of the region. The name Degenham itself reflects this period, rooted in early Anglo-Saxon language. Life during this time was simple and closely tied to the land. Farming, grazing, and small-scale production would have been the backbone of daily life. Unlike the structured Roman settlement, Saxon communities were more scattered, blending into the natural landscape rather than dominating it. For hundreds of years, Beam Parklands remained largely rural, even as London expanded. This area stayed on the edge, not quite countryside, not quite city. Historical records show that as late as the 17th century, Degenham was still a small village with limited development. The land that now forms the park would have been open fields, marshy patches, and grazing areas, shaped more by seasons than by human planning. Then came the Industrial Revolution, and everything began to change. The growth of East London brought factories, railways, and housing developments closer and closer to this quiet land. One of the most significant developments nearby was the massive Ford Motor Company plant in Degenham, which opened in the 20th century and became one of the largest car manufacturing sites in Europe. With it came thousands of workers, new housing estates, and rapid urban expansion. The contrast was striking. On one side, heavy industry and urban life. On the other, this open, undeveloped land that seemed to resist change. Yet Beam Parklands did not remain untouched. Over time, it became a neglected space. Without clear management or purpose, parts of the land fell into disrepair. Vegetation grew wildly, paths became unsafe, and the area developed a reputation for antisocial behavior. There was also a period when a smallpox isolation hospital operated nearby, reflecting a time when infectious diseases were a serious threat and isolation facilities were essential. This added another layer to the area's history, one tied to fear, health, and survival. Then, during the years of World War II, the land once again took on a new role. Due to its proximity to the River Thames and key industrial targets, the surrounding area became strategically important. Defensive structures, including bunkers and gun emplacements, were constructed to help protect London from aerial attacks. While many of these structures have since been removed or hidden by natural growth, their presence is still remembered. It is likely that soldiers once stood in this very area, watching the skies, listening for the distant hum of aircraft, ready to defend their city. Yet, like it has done for centuries, the land endured. Grasslands can recover, ecosystems can rebuild, and life returns. It is part of the natural cycle, destruction followed by renewal. In many ways, the fire became just another chapter in the long and complex story of Beam Parklands. What makes this place truly special is not just its history, or its beauty, or even its ecological importance. It is the way all these elements exist together. You can stand by the pond and watch a swan glide across the water. knowing that beneath that same surface lies a history that stretches back to Roman times. You can walk along a quiet path, unaware that soldiers once prepared for war nearby. You can enjoy the calm without realizing that the land beneath you is actively protecting the city from flooding. Beam Parklands is not just a destination. It is a living story, one that continues to evolve with every passing year. And if you stay a little longer, especially towards the evening, you begin to notice something else about Beam Parklands, how quickly it changes with light and seasons. In winter, the wetlands feel open and exposed. The reeds strip back, revealing wide views across the floodplain. But in summer, everything becomes dense and alive, with tall grasses, insects moving through the air, and birds calling from hidden corners of the marsh. This seasonal transformation is not accidental. The park was designed to allow natural cycles to take place. Water levels rise and fall, plants grow and decay, and wildlife adapts with the rhythm of the environment. In fact, parts of the park are intentionally left unmanaged at certain times of the year to support biodiversity. This approach reflects modern conservation thinking, where nature is given space to recover and regulate itself, rather than being constantly controlled. So when you walk through Beam Parklands, you are not just passing through a park. You are moving through layers of time, Roman footsteps, Saxon fields, wartime vigilance, industrial change, and modern restoration, all existing together in one landscape. And perhaps that is what makes it truly unforgettable. Not just what you see, but everything that has been here before you. And perhaps the most remarkable thing of all is this: despite everything it has been through, from ancient settlements to industrial expansion, from war to neglect, from fire to restoration, it is still here. Still quiet, still beautiful, still holding its secrets, waiting for those who are willing to listen. The winding water, the quiet ponds, including the frozen pond, still and glass-like under the cold sky, and the open grasslands all come together like a living map of time. From above, it no longer feels like just a park. It feels like a memory, still breathing, a place where the past has never truly left, where nature and history exist side by side, and where every path, every ripple of water, every shadow in the grass is part of a story still being written. And as the horizon stretches beyond the frame, one thought remains. Some places are visited, but places like this are felt. And long after you leave, Beam Parklands never really leaves you.